apply and or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you actually want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearing is expected to be continued. 53 Childs River Road. All right, first up, vote minutes, March 27, 2024. Anyone?
I move approval of the minutes, Batten.
Bird, second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes of 3:27. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Batten, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 3:27. Next up are vote minutes, April 3rd, 2024.
Move approval of minutes, April 3rd, as presented. Batten.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for April 3rd. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Batten, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of April 3rd. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for a continuance for determination of applicability. Richard and Judith Dionzio, sorry if I got that wrong, 61 Miami Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove unpermitted hardscape, add stepping stones, and install mitigation plantings. Alyssa.
The applicant has requested a continuance until May 1st.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until May 1st. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Batten, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 5/1. Next up, Robert Lattis, 32 Peyton Place, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace 4 piles and decking on an existing licensed pier. Alyssa?
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until April 24th in order to re-advertise.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this until April 24th. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Batten, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this RDA until April 24th. Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. J.W. Satinow, trustee, J.W. Satinow Revocable Trust, 53 Childs River Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a pool and cantilever deck. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's requesting a continuance until May 1st.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this notice until 5/1. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Batten, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until May 1st. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, Ronald Cunha, 133 Adamansett Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct an addition and close the existing deck and remove a portion of the existing patio. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, I.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Mark Culpo and Lisa Pulver, 33 Penny Royal Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade the existing soil absorption system. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, I.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Judith and Richard Courier, 119 Althea Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a deck in the same footprint. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, I.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, David Ferrazza, trustee, David P. Ferrazza, restated revocable trust, 33 Woodneck Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct and enlarge the existing dormer and to construct a second dormer and new roof. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments?
Only question I have is that construction is gonna require a lot of limited work controls.
Absolutely. We've put that in the staff report and made the homeowner aware that
Okay.
limited work will need to be installed and checked before work begins.
Yeah, same on the next one. Yeah, thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the motion to accept recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, I.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, David Ferrazza, trustee, David P. Ferrazza, restated revocable trust, 33 Woodneck Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade to a new Title V compliant sewage disposal system. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
O'Brien, second.
thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? Courtney?
Given the very, very sensitive location of this house, I don't understand why we don't require a denied system. It's right next to the marsh. It's right at marsh level. I think it
I'm
should
gonna,
be an absolute condition.
I don't think we can do that, can we?
I don't know if we can do that.
I can't, I mean, you can put small conditions on this, you can't, under an RDA, you can't condition, I can't condition under an RDA a D night. So if you want a D night, Courtney, you feel that, that strongly about it, then, you know, don't vote for the recommendation and make a recommendation for a positive. The only way to
That's-
do it.
Yeah, no, that works, and I intend to vote against it.
Okay.
But I did second the motion for the purposes of voting.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, the motion and the second on the table is to accept staff's recommendation. We're voting on that motion. Betsy,
Gladfelter, no.
Courtney,
Bird, no.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
No. Fellow Hawks.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
And I,
All right, it's 4-3, the motion passes. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Christopher Morrison, 404 Mara Vista Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a second floor addition. Alyssa,
staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Gladfelter, aye. I mean, Gladfelter makes the motion to accept.
Bird,
Driscoll,
second.
all right. We have a confused motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Now Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
and I,
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Betsy, I appreciate your efficiency. Next up, 61 Miami Avenue has been previously continued, as has the next one, which brings us to William Mahoney, 15 Ardmore Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a deck and add an addition within the same footprint. For after the fact permission to install a fence, enlarge a patio and driveway, and installation of a second patio and walkway. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
Arlo Hawks, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept, on the motion to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
and I,
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up is a continued request for determination of applicability. Eileen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair the existing deck, platform, and railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with the state building code. Alyssa,
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until May 15th.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until May 15th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
and I,
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 5:15. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder for public commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Enza Cone, the 123 Penzance Road Nominee Trust, 123 Penzance Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to create and maintain a sacrificial dune. Then,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Lori McDonald from Cape and Islands Engineering to present her project. Good evening, Lori.
Good evening. My name's Laura McDonald. I'm with Cape and Islands Engineering. I'm representing the applicant for the proposed installation of a sacrificial dune at 123 Penzance. And is it possible for me to share my screen?
absolutely.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this particular project is at 123 Penzance Road. It's as you're entering Penzance Road, it's on the right past the entranceway. This is the site here. It is bordering Buzzards Bay. And on the southeast side of the road are some salt marshes. There's also the blue line is this mean high water mark. The cyan lines are land subject to coastal zone flooding or various portions of the FEMA flood zone. Plus the outer cyan line is the Falmouth definition of land subject to coastal zone flooding. There's also coastal bank on site, which is this upper limits are this orange line here highlighted here and over on this side as well. On the property, there's also coastal beach. And there's land under the ocean and land containing shellfish here in Buzzards Bay itself. The property has a single family home situated on the property as well as a cottage down close to the water. There's riprap that protect the cottage right in front of the cottage here, as well as other rock riprap features along the beach area right in through here. The applicant is proposing to install some sand, approximately, 300 cubic yards of sand within a 5,230 square foot area. That's this area in orange. All the sand will be placed on the existing coastal beach to recreate and create a sacrificial dune. And I say recreate because there have been previous projects approved by the Conservation Commission in the past to perform this work. And at this point, through years of coastal action, the dune itself has eroded away again and needs to be rebuilt to protect the adjacent homes and property. So 5,230 square feet of beach will be brought up to a higher elevation by backfilling the area with sand that is suitable for the area. And then the dune The newly constructed dune will be planted with either culms or 2-inch plugs of beach grass, American beach grass, that's planted 12 inches on center in staggered rows throughout the dune. The beach grass will be planted at 2 plantings per hole. So there'll be sufficient chance for the beach grass to take hold. As mentioned, the sand proposed will be compatible grain size for the area or larger, such that it will provide more of a chance for the dune to remain in place. And throughout the course of the order of conditions, we are requesting that the commission allow for an annual placement of sand up to 200 cubic yards, that is, to repair any lost areas that occur within the work limits. Access will be from this existing path. So down along Penzance Road, there's an access path to the beach. So any equipment will be brought in through the access path down along the beach and then up into the work zone as necessary. Or the equipment can be placed above the top of Coastal Bank. For example, right here, there's an open area where an excavator can sit and place the sand along the coastal beach sacrificial dune work zone. Trying to think if there's anything else. So there are some best management practices that will be put into place to ensure that any impacts beyond the work zone are minimized and avoided. For example, equipment used will be rubber tired equipment, and the work limits will be defined in the field. Efforts will be coordinated with the construction staff to ensure that any disturbances are minimized. After work is, no equipment or work will be allowed in water below the mean high tide line. After work is complete, all the construction equipment, debris, and materials will be removed from the site, and the project will be stabilized, or the work area will be stabilized. Equipment and materials will all be staged and stored in upland areas far from wetland resource areas as practicable as well. We are also requesting a allowance of the homeowner to maintain the proposed dune in perpetuity by installing up to 200 cubic yards of sand a year and planting with beach grass should the dune become eroded or removed by storm events or higher than normal tides. I know that may be an issue. It was I did see that in the staff report, but we thought we'd still ask for that particular in perpetuity condition, if at all possible. There have been several orders of conditions for this site to complete the exact same work dating back from 1995, as far as we were able to see in the records. So 95, an order was issued for this work, same type of work, 2005, then 2009, and the latest one was in 2020. So I think I've covered everything. At this point, I guess I will turn it back over to the chairman.
Thank you. You can stop sharing,
Okay, sure, yep.
please.
Sorry, I've got to figure out how to do that. So there it is. All right.
All right. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the board's seen this project, as Laura stated multiple times in the past. I don't see the order of conditions being much different from the ones we've issued in the past. I would recommend the board condition it that if after the initial 200 cubic yards, if it is damaged during a storm event, then that damage be documented and submitted to the board prior to the repair, any repair of the dune. So we can keep track of that and how many times it's damaged. And the only other comment I have is, I'm sorry, Lori, the Falmouth Conservation Commission does not permit anything forever.
Okay,
Perpetuity means forever, and we
exactly.
just haven't made that leap yet that we're going to forever permit something.
Understood.
Conditions change in the field, especially along the coast. It could be quite different 5, 10, 15 years from now. So your client can always come in for an extension. As you stated, and as it's stated in the staff report, you know, the 95 order lasted that dune lasted 10 years. The 2005 order lasted 5 years to 2010, and that last order lasted, well, the dune held for 10 years. So
Okay.
I think every 10 years would be fine to go back and request a new order of conditions, but you can always request an extension for a few years.
Sounds good.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Just if they want to repair it after a large storm event, that documentation and monitoring be submitted prior to adding that repair sand.
Alyssa.
No comments. Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. Betsy.
No comments or questions, thanks.
All right, Courtney.
Based on the previous orders and the work done, similar work done, where does the sand go when it disappears off this beach?
So it just is carried offshore to create basically an underwater feature that helps protect the beach during
There or
winter.
to the north?
Usually it's pulled out to create a sandbar in front of the property, and then it eventually washes down shore to provide sand to adjacent areas. But generally during the winter months, it's pulled from the
But I mean,
the beach.
based on what I'm trying to get at is, I understand it moves. Where does it move? From the sandbar, where does it go from there? North or south?
I am not sure about the area, longshore drift. My guess it would be south, but I don't recall. I'd have to double check. I didn't look into that, but I know it does.
I'd like to see that as a condition in the monitoring.
Well, what condition do you want, Court?
I'm curious to know where the sand migrates, because now it has an impact on something else. It may be good or bad, but you guys
The
keep
sea-
dumping it on this location.
The seagrass bed has actually expanded in the amount of times this has happened. Seagrasses need sand to persist
Well, that's
and
good. So
grow and
all I want-
develop.
All I want to do is have document about this.
Courtney,
Courtney-
it could go one way at one time or the other way at another time.
Yeah,
Courtney, I can find out what the sediment transport is in this particular location for you. Is that what you're looking for? What the
yeah,
dimensional
I am.
sediment-
I mean, it's, you dump a lot of sand in a given spot, and I understand the idea of building dunes and protecting what's there. But, there's always a result from this sort of stuff, and that's what I'm trying to get at.
And Courtney,
It may
I
be- the result may
completely,
be good, it may not be good. That's what I want to know.
yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I share those same concerns when we're placing sand in the coastal ponds, in the finger ponds along Falmouth, because it tends to travel north and it tends to, have impacts further up those
Right,
coastal ponds. But in this particular location, staff doesn't have any concerns about them where like a large slug of sand would go. I will find out where the sediment transport is in this area. I having
Okay,
trouble
and that's
getting
all
my bearings.
That's all I'm interested in. I'm
Yep.
not, this is not a reason for me to vote against the project. I'm
Yep.
just, I just think it's information we should have.
Oh, absolutely. But it was, and I'll echo Betsy's comment, it was encouraging to see that the Ilgred's beds are
And that's good. And
expanding in this area.
That may be as a result of the sand. So,
Correct.
you know, I just want to have that documented. That I have no other questions.
Thank you. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury?
No questions for it. Thank you.
Ron?
Yeah, just a note on the ownership of the property. It's the 123 Penzance Road Nominee Trust, but the trustees seem to have changed. At least Enzo and Karen aren't on the deed and the registry of deeds. It's it's Lawrence Randolph and James Reynolds, the trustees of the trust on record. I don't know if that matters to anybody, but that's.
We'll check on that, Ron. We provided the information from Cape and Island, so I'll have Cape and Islands check that.
That's right from the registry of deeds
Yep.
and the town's tax records.
And the guard who told Ron and me that when we
Yeah.
went in.
Hmm.
He says they haven't owned it for 5 years. We said, what do we know? We're just looking at the conservation issues. We'll pass it on.
Lori,
Okay.
can you address that?
Yes, I'll make sure we got the right trustees documented on the property. I thought we were correct, but I'll double check with our staff and see, make sure that is accurate. So I mean, I to get back to the longshore drift, it looks like that all the looks like movement is south in this area. There are some jetties extending out into the Buzzards Bay, and sediment has built up on the north side of those jetties. So to me, it looks like the sediment is moving from north to south. I'm not a coastal geologist, so it's for my.
That's just what Ron noted in the field.
Oh,
Thank
really?
you,
Okay.
Betsy.
Built up on the north and it drops down on the south where it's been continued scooped out.
Right.
That-
But it could,
You
that
can
can change,
Because of the Woods Hole Passage there.
that
Title
can
changes.
change seasonally,
okay.
depending on the site.
Ron, you good?
I'm good.
Thank you. Steve?
I don't have any questions, sir. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Only Lori's hand raised, so.
Okay.
Think,
All right.
I just dropped it.
okay. There doesn't appear to be anything in the public chat, Mr. Chairman, or a raised hand.
Thank you.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Glenfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks Eye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Night, Lori.
Good night.
Next up, Greg Murphy, Miko Environmental Services, Inc., 137 Water Street, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to replace the existing fuel tanks. Ken?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a Cape and Island project. Raul, are you doing this one? Can you raise your hand? Thank you. Promoting Raul, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. He deserves a promotion.
Raul, I promoted you up. You with us?
There he
There you
is.
Oh, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant, MECO Environmental Services. Jen, if you could also see if Greg Murphy from MECO Environmental is in attendance.
Absolutely. I did see a Greg Murphy. I'm promoting one Greg Murphy.
Thank you.
Okay.
So yes, this project it's located at 137 Water Street, but locally it is known as 7 MBL Street, and also as the Lily Building. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So this notice of intent is to permit some utility work that is proposed at the facility for the MBL Lily Building. The facility is located in Woods Hole. I believe everybody is familiar with the site. This parcel is located between Gray Harbor and Eel Pond. From an aerial viewpoint, this is Lily Building at this location. This is Eel Pond, Gray Harbor. So the site is nestled between these two water bodies. We filed this notice of intent with this site plan, and the whole intent is that MBL currently has 2 underground fuel storage tanks. If we look at this image, this is one of the tanks located in front of the garage building. This is the second tank located to the side in the driveway of the garage building. So these 2 tanks, one here, second one here, completely underground. They're coming close to reaching their life expectancy. So MBL is looking to remove those 2 underground tanks and replace them with an above ground tank at this location, nestled behind Lily Building. This building, which is the CSF building, houses the generator for MBL's facilities, and those 2 underground fuel tanks feed that generator whenever power goes out. So the intent is to remove those tanks following the proper procedures for removal of underground storage tanks. In the meantime, there'll be a temporary 2,000-gallon above ground tank located in the pavement at this location. Before it is placed on the site, there'll be a steel plate on the pavement. Then the tank is placed on top of it. Part of the fuel from this tank is going to be transported over to the temporary tank. This tank is going to be protected with jersey barriers or some similar block type of structure to prevent vehicles from reaching the temporary fuel tank. In the meantime, these 2 tanks are being removed. This new tank is going to be above ground. What the applicant is proposing to do is to install a concrete pad, which is shown in this detail. This concrete pad is going to house the above ground tank, prefab stainless steel set of stairs to access the top of the tank, and some additional accessory units that go along with the fuel and the fuel lines. All of that is within one same concrete pad located in this location of the back of Lily Building. The site behind Lily Building, if I can share this picture, is nestled in this location back here, past the view of these vehicles that we see in this screen. If I share another picture I have, probably shows a further angle, but that's the corner back there after those trees where this above ground tank is going to go. Between that tank and the existing generator, which is inside this building, there's going to be some underground fuel lines. There was a question from staff about groundwater level. Groundwater at this facility or in this area is roughly elevation 1. The parking lot is roughly elevation 4 to 4.5. But if we do the installation, taking advantage of low tide periods, groundwater could be at elevation -1. This fuel line is roughly 1.5 to 2 feet below the surface, so it should not be interfering with groundwater. The removal of these tanks, it's likely that if it is done during the high tide period, it will require some dewatering. So the plan does include a dewatering plan. Should that be the case that is needed, dewatering with the same methodology that has been done before, which is a dewatering bag contained within a filter laid enclosure of hay bales or straw bales. The existing site has several drainage systems, and we're proposing to protect them with some silt sacks, like we show in the details. We also cannot occupy the entire parking lot at MBL. Parking in Woods Hole is at a premium, so we cannot really occupy all the parking spaces back here. So we propose to just delineate the area that's necessary to do the work. There's going to be some limited works with erosion control in the form of straw bales. We cannot stake them because they're going to be placed on top of pavement. So what we propose to do is using fabric to be wrapped on the upside and over them, and use some either gravel or some soil to hold the fabric in place. And then the installation, once is done and the pavement is back in place, then all the erosion control measures can be taken away. So the whole purpose for this is just to replace these 2 subsurface tanks that are coming up to their lifespan. At that point, it will be very difficult for MBL to insure those tanks. So having a new tank above ground is the better option for them. And in the transition between removal and installation of the new one, there will be a temporary 2,000-gallon above ground tank. The new tank is capable of 6,000 gallons. And that should be sufficient for the needs of MBL. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And Greg is also with us in case there's any specific questions for him.
All right, Mr. Murphy, do you want to add anything at this point?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So Raul, thank you for that. My only 2 cents is that currently there are 2 separate generators on the second floor of that building. Each generator is served independently by one of those underground tanks. So one tank supplies one generator, another tank supplies the other generator. What we're looking to do is to take those 2 tanks out and have one uniform fuel supply across the parking lot that will supply fuel to those 2 generators. The fuel will be up on the second floor of that building. Each generator has a small day tank, so the generator draws and returns fuel from an individual day tank, and our system will replenish those day tanks on an as-needed basis. So that's the kind of the mechanics of what we're looking to do. The tanks that are in the ground are dual wall fiberglass, a very good tank. Their recommended life expectancy is 30 years. The DEP does not require you to take the tanks out. They highly recommend it, but what happens is once the tanks exceed the recommended life expectancy, the owner is unable to insure them. So that's what MBL is up against, is that in another year or so, these tanks are going to be beyond their manufactured life, and they're going to be not possible to place insurance on those tanks. So preemptively, they want to take the tanks out, replace them with one new state-of-the-art above-ground fuel system.
All right, thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Raul, can you just submit a revised plan, taking the little pier off for us, please? Thanks. And also, can you just submit the drawings, and I don't know if you mentioned this, can you submit the drawings from Core Engineered Solutions?
I could do that. I will say I don't want it to confuse the file, because this pad that we're proposing is a combined pad, and that set of drawings by Core has two different pads. So if you see those set of plans, I don't want the confusion that there's multiple pads. This is just going to be one pad for the whole project.
Noted. Okay, when you send those, you can just send an email stating that, and we'll add that to the record. I just want the record to be complete.
Thank you.
Okay, and the only other thing we had a little concern with, Raul, is that taking away the only grass back there. The only little green patch back there, you're taking it away. Anything you can do for us on that respect? I know parking is tough. I know they don't want to lose any of their parking spaces, and that's why it's going in the grass.
If I could share a screen just to bring into an illustration of what Jen is referring
It's
to.
a little bit of grass.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is an aerial view. Hope everybody can see this.
Yeah.
But so this is the patch that we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's roughly 160 square feet of grass that the pad is going to be taking up. If the commission agrees to and wants it, we can provide an equivalency in natives. We can't lose pavement because we can't lose parking, and the pavement goes all the way to the wall. So I guess I will probably hear what the commissioners feel about what is an appropriate offset for this.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Alyssa?
Thank you. I guess my only comment about potential shrubs is there is a little patch on the I think the northern side. When you start hitting MBL Street, there's a little bit of lawn, maybe a couple shrubs. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Courtney?
No comments.
All right. Just to ask, would it be appropriate to put some shrubs in front of that tank, kind of disguise it? Would they grow? I don't know, just throwing it out there. I'm not hung up on it, Raul. Don't even, just think about it.
Is the concern, something native, or is it water infiltration? Because we could, around on the back side of our pad or around the perimeter of the pad, we could, put in crushed stone. I mean, we also have some protective bollards going in there. We could try to disguise the bollards and hide them with some shrubs. I can't guarantee that they'll grow, but we could certainly try. Or we could also put something in there that's permeable for water infiltration.
Jen just likes grass because she likes mowing.
We like plants.
We like
I like
plants, and there's
plants
just a
too.
lot of pavement back there, sir. So we were just like, oh, we saw the picnic table. We were like, oh, little picnic table's going away.
Well, I think they're still gonna have a picnic table. It's just gonna be moved to the
On
side.
pavement.
But we have to put the tank on
I know.
the foundation, and I realize back there is kind of an asphalt jungle.
We understand that, sir. We also understand the parking situation before. This is not the first project we've heard back there for MBL. And we've heard the parking argument before, so we understand. It was something we noted, so the board can talk about it, and if they want to put some natives in the front area between MBL Street and the building, that would be fine.
I'm sure they'd be agreeable to that.
All right, moving forward, Kevin.
No further comments other than to say it'd be a nice gesture if they put in a few plants somewhere on the property.
All right. Maury.
I just had two questions. Why are you using a temporary tank? Why not put the new tank in and transfer the fuel into that tank?
Well, you need to provide a fuel supply to the emergency generators. So we have to take the existing fuel supply out. We're gonna supply the day tanks with the temporary tank while we replace the main storage tank. And then, it's not forever, but between electrically, mechanically, and testing and startup, it's going to take us a few weeks to do, even though we're going to start in advance with the foundation and have all the provisions in place. We need to kind of operate on the system, and so we need to keep the system supplied while we do the operation.
But don't you have the existing tanks in the ground now that are operational?
Yeah, but the existing tanks have to come out of the ground for us to bring the new fuel piping and everything through that path. So we're gonna build the new foundation.
Okay, all right, I understand that then. If the new lines are going to be going through the area of the existing tanks.
The new tank, the old tanks have to come out for us to bring the new stuff through.
Okay, the second thing is there natural gas in Woods Hole?
No, there is not.
There's no natural gas in Woods Hole.
There's no other fuel supply, and they do have frequent hiccups in their Eversource power. So these generators are used much more frequently than they would be if they were elsewhere in Falmouth.
So how many gallons of fossil fuel are in that? Is in the new tank?
The existing underground tanks, I believe, are a total of 6,000 gallons. So in those tanks, you might have 90% of capacity. In this tank is a 6,000 gallon tank. You'll have probably 5,000 gallons of fuel in the tank. Maybe give us an accessible, usable fuel supply of around 4,600 gallons, which will give them, if they go to both generators on full load, they'll have maybe a couple of days of fuel supply before they'll need replenishment.
Wow. That's a lot of fuel. And then I'm sure this is all alarmed for spills and inside the bunker and.
Yes, so we really don't have much at all. I mean, right now the whole shooting match is underground, but now with the new system, all we're going to have underground is one seamless fuel supply line from the new tank up, seamless, no joints, from the tank all the way up and into the new building. So really all we're going to be doing is opening a trench, putting in a sleeve, a conduit, and then pushing our new seamless fuel dual wall stainless steel fuel pipe through that conduit. So
thank you for that clarification.
What we thought was accessories was a fuel filtering system. That's what that box is next to the above ground tank.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for the clarification. Oh, I'm all set. Thank you, Jamie.
All right, Ron. Ron.
I'm here. No questions or comments.
All right, Steve.
Thank you for that clarification and Maura for your question. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
All right, Betsy,
I have a couple of questions. When are you planning to do this work?
Well, the new, we're kind of waiting to release the tank to fabrication after this meeting. The tank, if we release it tomorrow morning, the tank will be ready for us probably middle of the end towards the end of September. So that's when the removal will happen once the new tank is delivered. In advance of that, we would build our tank foundation. That's really all we can do until we get the new tank.
And once you start this work, how long will it take? If everything goes smoothly.
This project, once we get the new tank, this project should not take us more than 6 weeks.
And you're going to start in September? You're not going to put the temporary tank in before that, are you?
No, we won't put the temporary tank. It might be there a little in advance, but we're not gonna put fuel in it, or we're not gonna put it online until we absolutely have to.
Okay, and my other question is, I understand why you're doing this, but I always worry about, I've been in areas where you lose electricity frequently, and you're losing any redundancy now in your system. Right now you have 2 tanks and 2 lines that go in. This way you're only going to have 1 line from your tank.
Well, I may have misspoke. You have 2 independent day tank systems up there. So you have 2 generators that each have their own standalone fuel supply.
No, but you only have 1 line from your big tank to those day tanks.
Well,
what happens if something happens to that line?
Maybe we'll have two fuel supply lines, and because there is redundant pumps in the submersible in the above ground tank, so there's alternating pumps. So the first time it calls for fuel, pump A will be used. The next time it comes on, pump B will be used. So there's alternating pumps, but the main trunk fuel supply, 1 line is adequate. That's the way.
Well, I mean, it's your project, but I just worry about redundancy, especially for something like this.
It's valid if we have it open. We have 1 line for supply and 1 line for overflow and return. Maybe we will put in 3 lines just as a backup. We'll see what the sizing is and whether we can fit it all in 1 conduit pipe.
Good.
But to answer your question, in advance of the new tank being delivered, we will build the foundation much in advance, because we want it's a substantial foundation that we'll be building. We want to give that ample time to cure, to put the fuel tank on it. The fuel tank empty is about 75,000 pounds. So we want to, once you put 5,500 gallons of fuel in that, it's a 125,000 pound vessel. So we want to build the foundation in advance, so it's has plenty of time to cure before we take delivery.
It's all on fill. I hope it doesn't sink.
It won't sink.
Okay.
you good?
Yep.
All right. Greg, I have 2 questions for you. One is, what's the temporary tank? What's the construction of that?
Well, it's made to the same UL standard that the new tank is going to be, which is it's called UL 2085. So have you seen the tanks? I built the DPW fueling facility. You've seen those tanks? So those are UL 2085. They're fire resistant. So it's the tank that we'll be using is a dual wall steel tank that between the 2 walls of steel is 6 inches of concrete. So it's a tank that's suitable for either gas. It's suitable for gasoline. We'll just be using it for diesel fuel.
Okay, and then to expand on Maury's point about the alarm system, is there an alarm system so that if you have a spill, a leak, a breach in the fuel line, is there any alarm system for that purpose?
Yes, there is an alarm system in the storage tank, in the pipe chamber, and in the dual wall cavity of the pipe. The dual wall cavity of the pipe is always under vacuum. So if there's a loss of vacuum in the pipe, the alarm, the system goes into alarm, and that's going to be networked into the MBL building management system. In the fuel system itself, there's high level alarms, there's low level alarms, there's temperature alarms, there's leak alarms, there's every alarm you can imagine in the fuel system itself.
Okay. Thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Raul, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
All good.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Raoul Hawks eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve. It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Raul. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Night,
you,
Raoul.
Good
everybody.
night, Raoul.
Night, Greg.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, the next hearing had been previously continued. This brings us to continued request for hearing under notice of intent. First up, James McLaughlin, Town of Falmouth, 589 Courier Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repave the existing parking lot, install green infrastructure and stormwater drainage, and install native plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Amy Ball up as a panelist to present her continued project. Amy, I don't see Michelle here tonight. Is she be joining us or no?
It's school vacation week.
Oh, so it's just you.
I'm flying
Perfect,
solo.
okay. Nope, I don't think we had much to discuss other than we were waiting for Natural Heritage's letter, correct?
That's correct. And actually, for the record, Amy Ball, senior ecologist with the Horsley Witten Group. We did receive our letter from Natural Heritage on April 4th. And they, in a nutshell, had basically suggested a few conditions for the commission's consideration in order to avoid any adverse effects to resource area habitats and or prohibited take under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, or MESA. And those were summarized pretty quickly. They obviously want us to stay within our limit of work. They want to make sure that all species that are used in the replantings are native, not only to just Massachusetts, but to the counties, to Barnstable County. So even though I kind of looked at these plants and I thought, geez, I thought, Coreopsis and Utricum were all native, and they are, just not to Barnstable County. So that's one of their conditions there. They want us to stick to the county checklist. They do not wish for us to use any loam on the bank, which I agree with. And then they also just suggested their MESA determination is good for 5 years from the date of their letter. So rather than us redo this, since we know we have not, we're sort of at the end of our grant period with the permitting and design of the project. What we were hoping the commission may consider is conditioning the Natural Heritage's recommendations as part of an order of conditions, and that we would provide the commission with, new plans if and when this project ever actually goes to construction in the future. And I think that's really all we were waiting on, so I'll turn that back over for your questions.
All right. For the record, the quorum excludes Kevin and Ron. All right, Jen,
So Amy, when you say new plans, just new plans outlining the natural heritage conditions?
No, I think you had also suggested that we shouldn't use panicum, the
Yep.
switchgrass in our seed mix, and I believe.
Oh,
that's probably
the
one of them
plantings,
too.
yeah, we can condition that, Amy. We can.
So
we
that's
can-
that's
yeah.
what this is really all about too. It's
Yeah.
sort of taking away certain plants. We're just not at a point with the grant to carry this forward and provide the commission with like our 100% plans, but maybe that would be something the commission would
No,
consider.
that's fine. We can condition the natural heritage and the plant species. That's easily conditioned through the order. No other comments, Mr. Chairman.
all right, Alyssa,
No comments. Thank you.
all right. Commissioner comments, Maury,
No comments. Thank you very much.
all right, Steve,
No comments, thanks.
all right, Betsy,
No comments. Thanks to you both.
Courtney,
No comments.
all right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All right, any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. Good night.
Have a good evening.
Will the representative from Solitude please raise their hand so I can promote you as a panelist? Thank you, Keith.
All right,
Thank
next
you.
up is Joyce Bach, Friends of Cedar Lake, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management of Cedar Lake. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I
I'm
am
sorry.
promoting the project team right now.
all right. The quorum is all of us because this has been continued but not open.
Miss Bach, you're going to have to, thank you. And Mr. Rubin, I'm coming to get you right now, but you just jumped ahead. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, there's one more person I need to promote and they keep jumping around. Okay, I have Miss Bach, Goddard Consulting, Solitude. I believe Miss Bach wanted to make a few comments before the presentation. So Miss Bach, you're going to have to turn your camera and your microphone on to address the commission.
Why wouldn't we do the presentation first?
Because I got an email and she asked if she could make some, I know Solitude suggested I speak very briefly before their presentation, so.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Miss Bach.
Okay, so you don't need to see me necessarily. I'm Joyce Bach. I'm Joyce Bach. I'm the president of Friends of Cedar Lake. Almost 5 years ago in 2019, the abutters of Cedar Lake met in my living room. We discussed a lot of things, many of which were observations around Cedar Lake. One that sticks in my mind is that we were all regretting the loss of the bullfrogs. In 2021, APCC came and did what they call their snapshot testing on the lake with recommendations that we needed remediation. In 2022, several of us attended a plant ID workshop where we learned that the vegetation that is clogging Cedar Lake is fanwort, which is an invasive, non-native plant. From that plant workshop, we were recommended to consult with Solitude, a lake management company. Over the next year and a half, we've raised over $40,000 to address this problem. And right now, I would say this is not just a matter of aesthetics, but it's a concern for maintaining the environment for many, many animals and species that frequent the lake, not just the frogs, but also the herring that come in from the herring run, the osprey that feed on the herring, the blue herons, and many, many other species. So we're appreciative of being in front of the Concom tonight, and I'll let Solitude pick it up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I can take over from here.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Mark Rubin. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. And also with me here tonight is Stephen Ribberty, principal ecologist with Goddard Consulting, as well as Keith Gazale, the senior project manager at Solitude. So like Joyce was saying, they've been monitoring the condition of the lake for quite a while. And then back in 2022, they hired Solitude to conduct an aquatic macrophyte survey, as well as a water quality assessment. And they confirmed that there is extensive fanwort throughout the lake. As Joyce was saying, this is an invasive species that's tends to take over environments out here. So it's pushing out the native vegetation. And they recommended herbicidal treatment using sonar herbicide with the active ingredient fluoridone. This has been the only treatment method that's been proven effective at long-term control for fanwort. So this is the strongly recommended treatment. And we submitted an NOI for this treatment a number of weeks ago, and we've been in communication back and forth between us and the Conservation Commission, as well as the Department of Marine Fisheries, just addressing comments and questions. One of the most significant things we've been talking about is the fact that Cedar Lake is a known diagenous fish spawning ground for alewife and American eel. So of course, those are species we want to protect, and we want to make sure that the herbicide treatment is not affecting them in any negative way. So as a result, we have two time of year restrictions on which we would not be doing any treatment unless otherwise approved by the Department of Marine Fisheries or Division of Marine Fisheries. And if I can share my screen. All right, you see it okay?
Yep.
All right, so we've got a map of Cedar Lake here. So what I'm proposing to do, so we have lake access down in this area. Initially, we were proposing to access the lake through 79 Bay Road. So we did a wetland delineation to assess the most accurate, the best point of access where minimal wetland would be disturbed. But currently, we are proposing to access the lake through 71 Bay Road. They have a dock that we could use, so we would not have to walk through any wetlands. Even if there was wetlands to walk through, it'd be pretty minimal, very little disturbance. We would be hand carrying a small boat onto the dock and accessing the boat through there. All treatment would occur from the boat on the lake. On the advisement of Division of Marine Fisheries, We have reduced our treatment areas to less than 50% of the lake each year. So we've got the lake divided into two treatment areas. First year, we would treat treatment area A. Second year, we would cover treatment area B. In addition to that, we would avoid the littoral area. So we would give a buffer zone of about 30 feet all the way around the pond at the point where Rand's Canal connects with the lake, which is the route that the diatomous fish use. We would expand that buffer to 100 feet. In addition to that, any areas that had a depth of less than 3 feet, we would not treat those directly either. And so the first year of treatment would simply, we would primarily just be using sonar, fluoridone. And at the end of that year of treatment, we would be issuing reports to the Division of Marine Fisheries and the Commission. These would cover any changes in the abundance of target and non-target vegetation. They would include water quality monitoring results. Those water monitoring would take place both before and after treatment. So there would be fairly extensive monitoring during the entire course of treatment. That would be included in reports. This would also include any fish kill incidences if they happened. It would also include recommendations for further treatment. And upon approval from the Division of Marine Fisheries and the Conservation Commission, the treatment would continue in the following year. So I believe that covers just about everything. So I can turn things back over to if Steve or Keith want to say anything, or we can host questions.
Yeah, I'll say something quick, Mark, just to kind of piggyback on what you said. The whole purpose of this, and I think as Joyce said too, it's habitat improvement. The fanwort in its current state and density is, it's to the point now it's having a negative effect on the diatomous fish too. So it's precluding their areas for breeding and spawning. So, removal or dieback of the fanwort is, a net benefit to the species. We all understand the concerns that DMF has, and we're going to work with them and, follow any protocols that they have, so we don't have any negative effect on the water quality or the species for sure. And then the whole point of this is a lake improvement project. Joyce and the lake committee, the group around the lake, they have a lake management plan. They're going about this the right way. This isn't just like use herbicides to get rid of the fanwort. That is something you have to do in the short term, but they're looking at the whole watershed to the lake and inputs and fertilizer runoff and trying to get around their heads around that too, which is the bigger solution in the long term. But that's a long-term solution that takes a lot of time and effort and input by a lot of people and possibly the town and other entities. So I just wanted to kind of add that on to what Joyce and Mark had said.
All right, you all set? All right, Keith, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, I think they've covered it all pretty well, so I'll let you ask your questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, a couple of comments and questions. You've all read the comments from the Division of Marine Fisheries and the monitoring requirements. Who will be undertaking the monitoring? Steve, will that be you or Goddard Consulting? Will you be doing the monitoring?
Sorry.
You sold it.
Oh, sorry, Keith, I thought you were going to speak. The water quality monitoring would be Solitude, to my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, Solitude will be doing the monitoring, and you'll be doing the monitoring as directed by DMF. Well, it'll be conditioned, so it'll be, what do they say? 72, 48, and 24 hours prior to treatment, and then the 24, 48, and 72 hours after treatment.
I think we may request a modification of the timing. I think DMF's guidelines are predicated on kind of their experience with contact herbicide projects. And so really all of the monitoring events are kind of compressed into that, say, immediately prior to treatment and the 2 weeks following treatment. Because contact herbicides work much more quickly, the impacts to water quality kind of happen in that short time frame. Here with fluridone, because of the extended exposure requirements and the slower impact to the plants, those impacts are later post-treatment. So I think what we've done in other fluridone treatment programs, we've done the same number of monitoring events, but we have pushed them out into that 30 to 60-day time frame when those plants are going to start to succumb to the herbicide and when the real water quality impacts are likely to occur.
Okay, so why was that not submitted to DMF for consideration prior to this hearing?
Because we didn't have time. And typically the way we've done it is DMF has requested us to make those requests of them, once we've received the order of conditions.
So here's my issue, Keith. We're going to condition that monitoring as per DMF's comments letter. And then you're going to go back to DMF and ask them to revise their comment letter, but you're still going to be bound by the order of conditions. So without knowing how DMF is going to respond to your request, how are we supposed to condition that? That should have been part of your original submittal. I mean, we've been going back and forth. This is, I think, the second comment letter, Alyssa, from DMF. I'm just curious why that request for consideration wasn't done, the second time DMF commented, or I'm sorry, why wasn't that consideration presented to the commission and DMF, once you responded to our original comments?
I guess I don't have a good answer for that.
I mean, I think part of it was, I mean, I don't want to speak for DMF, but their turnaround the comments was taking a while. And I think this potential change in timing was new to us at the end. My thought on it was if they don't give us the approval, then we're stuck to the time of year and the monitoring requirements as written. If they do, could it be conditioned that it's as it's stated or as approved by DMF? So if they approve a modification to that would cover it under the order of conditions, that DMF would have to sign off on any modifications to the plan, because they're the ultimate ones that would have to sign off on a monitoring protocol anyway, because it's within their purview in a fish run habitat. So anything that Keith would propose to change from that, he would have to run through DMF and get approval anyway. Any kind of modification to that protocol, which it sounds like, Keith, on other projects, whenever you have to get those modified, it's standard practice to go to DMF and get an approval, and you can't work outside their stipulated SOPs for monitoring unless you have written sign off from them for anything, right? So I'm assuming that would apply here as well.
Okay, I'm really concerned that this wasn't raised. This notice of intent was issued to our office 2 months ago. We've had 2 months to work with DMF. So I'm just kind of disappointed, I guess, that this wasn't raised to DMF before, that you would be seeking a modification to requirements that I actually presented, I believe, to the Friends of Cedar Lake prior to this notice of intent even being submitted to us. The monitoring requirements were, that documentation was submitted to the Friends of Cedar Lake. I mean, I think you're undertaking, or you're proposing a great project to try to control the fan wart, but this is something very new to Falmouth. We're gonna rely heavily on DMF's comments. And knowing that you were gonna request a modification to a very stringent monitoring schedule, and I'm hearing about it at 8:30 at night, the night of the hearing, when we've been talking about this project for 2 months, I'm just having trouble with that. My second thing is, the timing year will not be I will not recommend modification of the timing year restriction to the commission. I did have a chance to speak very late today with our Assistant Director of Marine and Environmental Services, who called me late this afternoon to weigh in on this project. He's also our herring warden, and he would like to see the project undertaken in August. I know that you have written in your documentation, it's a July 1 to August 31st timeframe. I guess my question is for Keith, how long will it take you to treat the pond once you get started?
The treatment program will probably take 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a series of lower dose applications, and it's really targeting a concentration exposure time with the plants, probably 50 to 60 days.
Okay. So you say 4 to 6 weeks. So if we put, he's concerned with obviously glass eels and everything else, American eel, but there are glass eels in that system as well. So his preferred time frame would be probably the last 2 weeks in July and in August, if that would work. He has also requested that Solitude that you contact him probably about a week prior. That way he can manipulate the water level with the boards on the herring run and then maybe kind of hold some back. So it might help the fish population. So would that be an issue to contact the herring warden and work with him prior to the treatment of the pond?
Yeah, certainly no. Contact with no
perfect
is not an issue. I think the only thing that I would have concern with is if we push the start date back further and further. So that what becomes difficult as the plants continue to mature and develop and become fully mature, their absorption of the herbicide is much lower because they're mature and they're not actively growing to the same extent they would be in earlier development. And so what ends up happening is we end up, in order to try and achieve control in that reduced time frame, say from late July to I guess September is when the time of year restriction returns. We would probably have to treat at a much higher application rate, and so the trade-off there is now we start to lose some selectivity with other plant species within the lake, and so that was really why we would prefer to at a minimum start kind of on July 1. And that's really kind of pushing it later than we normally would. Normally, we'd probably start this treatment program at the end of May. So the plants are already going to be more mature than they would be, but we feel like we can continue to maintain selectivity and still achieve good target plant control given that time frame, July to September.
Okay. I'll just recommend, obviously, to the commission that, Solitude work very closely with our Marine and Environmental Services Division. And they'll do what they can to, like I said, manipulate the system in order to protect the fish that are in the system and allow you to do your treatment. As far as the monitoring, I can probably recommend, once you clear it, we will condition it the way DMF has suggested. But if you do seek a modification from the Division of Marine Fishery, again, we're basing the monitoring on their recommendations. So if you can get them to adjust that monitoring, I can word the order of condition that gives you that latitude if Division of Marine Fisheries wants that. But I think they definitely want that benchmark of prior to.
Absolutely.
the treatment that, and then we can work with your group on if you get DMF to modify and I understand why you're asking them to do that. I just wish it had been done prior to the hearing, and I'm not hearing about it now.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say to that is DMF is kind of, we've done certainly dozens of these projects where there are diameter suspicion. Really, the monitoring has only been a requirement if we're requesting an incursion into the time of year restriction. And so in this case, they've asked for the monitoring whether we're operating in the time of year restriction. So I think that is probably why, because we were always planning to kind of do this project outside of the time of year restriction and not request that incursion. So we were, I guess, probably incorrectly anticipating maybe there wouldn't be monitoring that would be required.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can work with you on that. That's fine. I guess, I mean, there was a lot of materials, a lot of things. So I'm going through. So you're doing that. I think I see that they had concerns with your additional use of a copper control for algae. Are you still planning to do that?
Yeah, no, I think we have withdrawn the request for the use of copper.
Okay. And there was also some vagueness in the application on Phragmites control. Is that off the table as well right now?
Steve, or Mark, I don't recall.
Somebody.
There was.
I think we mentioned it early on, but if it's something that's not
Well, it was
needed,
vague. So I think we just wanted more information, and DMF wanted more information on that. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you wanted to do?
I think if there, if
Steve.
control, I think it was, we may have included glyphosate in terms of providing some spot application of any existing, because of the invasive nature of Phragmites. Certainly not a primary component of this project. And so, I mean, I think if there's any concern, the Friends of Cedar Lake, I know, are most committed to managing the fanwort species there. So,
Okay. And I think the only other big item I have, because like I said, there's a lot of material, a lot of information in all these submittals, including our staff report, is that obviously one of the big things about treatment area 2 is we don't have any DMF comments because we don't know what's going to happen with treatment area 1. So what I would suggest to the board is that in the order of conditions you're seeking tonight, that we would approve treatment area A. And then for treatment area B, come back with an amendment for treatment area B, and then provide us with all the DMF comments and monitoring reports and everything like that. So we have the ability to hear from DMF on how they feel this project has worked in this area. And I just think that would, from my comfort level, I would prefer to see the project done that way. So I'm going to recommend we don't approve treatment area 2, but that the group come back next year after this treatment, this first initial treatment. We see how it did. We see how it affected the lake, and then we can go forward with treatment area 2.
Yeah, most of it is.
Does that sound reasonable?
it does. Yep.
Okay.
yeah, I think Joyce was trying to speak. I saw her light up, but I don't know if she was.
Well, she should get her picture going and participate then. Jenny, you good?
I think those are the big overarching things. I know there was a lot of information, and we've pretty much detailed it in our staff report. We are going to follow DMF's recommendations. Again, if you get to monitor them, modify them, Keith, that's great. We can write that into the order. We're just solely going with this treatment for fanwort. We're going to take out the copper algae. We're going to take out the Phragmites and all of that. Treatment 2 will be under an amendment. And then you will be working with our Marine and Environmental Services Department, because he really did stress to me today his concerns with even doing it in early July. So I'd like you to speak with him prior to starting.
Sure.
Because again, he's going to manipulate the water levels and everything, and he thinks it'll be helpful. So, okay.
Yep.
And that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chairman, and I am going to reserve the right to comment again later on.
I always ask if there's more.
I know.
All right, Alyssa.
Really just one follow-up comment. So similar to the changes in monitoring schedule, if any other, aspects of your protocol change during the process, if the project evolves one way or the other, if you could keep us informed as much as DMF, that would be helpful. We wouldn't want to be surprised when the monitoring reports come around and we see these big changes potentially. That's all for now. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. I'm going to start. Jen, I think the monitoring issue should be done as an amendment. I think if they get it changed, then I think they should come back for an amendment to adjust that.
Okay. That's what you feel, Mr. Chairman, we can?
Well, how is it going to be? You're going to do it administratively?
Like I said, we're literally bulleting out what DMF has suggested their
I
monitoring to
understand that.
be.
So we're going to issue an order of conditions based on that. And then they're going to want to change the order of conditions.
We can ask
So to
them
speak.
if you're more comfortable with them coming back for an amendment, Mr. Chairman, that's fine. Or I can craft the language that if they receive approval from DMF for a modified monitoring schedule, then we would accept DMF's approved modified monitoring schedule. So it's really whatever the board's comfort level is.
Okay. I agree with you on treatment area 2 being an amendment after we know what the monitoring shows for treatment area 1. All right. Ron.
No comments.
Okay. Steve.
I guess much more interesting than I originally thought. I am impressed with the experience and with Jen's issues about this treatment plan. I think it'll be something we really should monitor, and sounds pretty interesting. There's a lot of new technology coming out, and this is one of them, I assume. I obviously couldn't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Betsy.
Thanks, Jamie. So, once this, what are you targeting? What is it called?
Fanwort.
Fanwort. Once these fanwort plants die, are you gathering them and taking them out of the system?
No, so they'll basically sink to the bottom and decompose there.
Okay, and the idea is it's going to be late enough in the season. I mean, that's why you're doing the water quality monitoring, right? Because you don't want them to decompose and suck up the oxygen, etc. So you're going to do it late enough and hope it decomposes over the winter?
Well, they'll probably decompose before the winter, or in season they will. I mean, typically what we would do is, like I said, initiate a treatment program like this earlier in the growing season when the plants are less mature, so there's less plant biomass to decompose. And the benefit of sonar is because, or fluoridone is the active ingredient, it works so slowly that there's a staggered die-off and decomposition of the plants. And so unlike a contact herbicide where all of the plants succumb to the effects of the herbicide at one time, there's much more of a oxygen demand on the system as a result of that crash of plant biomass. And so because this is staggered, it generally does not have a significant impact on dissolved oxygen.
Okay, and yeah, plants like this in a system like this can totally destroy the whole ecosystem and kill out, basically eliminate most of the native animals as well as the plants.
Yes, and certainly under the level of growth that currently exists in Cedar Lake, there are certainly concerns or potential for there to be, significant enough diurnal fluctuations that dissolves oxygen as a result of the respiration of the plants that could result in fish mortality or anoxia that would result in fish mortality.
Yeah,
eliminating some of this biomass will reduce that potentiality.
Yeah, I don't think most people understand that during the nighttime, there's a huge biological demand. So you can have 100% oxygen. It can go up to 120% during the daytime when the plants are releasing oxygen. It can go down to 20% at nighttime. So the more dead material you have, or the more plant material you have, the more problem you have with that. Thanks. It's I hope you have great success. And because, as Jen said, we haven't seen this before, but good luck.
Thank you.
And we'll be following you.
Good.
That's all. Thanks,
Courtney.
Jamie.
Sure. Courtney.
So would you anticipate having to come back and retreat the lake in the following year?
Well, I think given the nature of the program, given that we're only treating 50% of the lake at one time, yes, there's a strong possibility that we'll need to treat the second half in the following year.
Oh, okay. But I mean, say once you do the whole lake, would you anticipate having to do a follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the term in which we have of control is it varies from system to system, but Sonar or Fluridone is a systemic herbicide, so it's impacting both the vegetative portion and the root structure of the plants. So I anticipate kind of, I guess, if we do treat in 2025, that we would probably see, at least 2 to 3 years of acceptable control. That's not to say there won't be some regrowth, and I think that's what will be critical to kind of providing a sustained long-term control is some level of maintenance. And that's why we originally included the bottom barriers, because I think that is a potential method that we could use to essentially stamp out small pockets of regrowth in those subsequent years and stave off the need for additional large-scale control like the herbicide application.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Just to follow up on that, Courtney, the reason there's only 50% being treated in year one is that it's a DMF requirement.
No, I understand, and but I'm just looking at, comparing it to Phragmites projects where you do the initial treatment and then you still have to come back each year and kind of do spot treatments or it comes back.
Yep.
All right, good, Court.
I'm good.
Kevin.
I don't think I'm on this.
We just opened it.
We just opened it, Kevin.
What?
You are.
Oh,
we just opened it. You're on it.
There's nothing I could add to that discussion. Thank you.
All right. Maury.
I had several questions. You said that there was, in your narrative, it says that you were going to use one of the herbicides to control small areas of fanwort, but then you say the place is infested with fanwort. Is it a lot or not?
No, clearly there is a lot. It's nearly 100% inundated.
Well, you should have put that in the narrative that it was almost 100%, not small areas. Number two.
Well, I think we included some post this initial effort. And this has been DEP's request of us for these management programs, is to try and build out all of the techniques that we may use kind of in the management of the system, both from an initial, I'd say larger scale effort to what those maintenance techniques might be. And I think that's probably what you're seeing, is we probably have included some products that would be more conducive to the control of spot application of fanwort regrowth.
So is that the one you use for spot? What do you use for the major kill?
It's called Sonar is the trade name. The active ingredient is Fluridone.
Okay. I didn't see Floridil in there. So the next question, this is spring fed. Is there any challenge with it being spring fed?
I would say not. I mean, I think certainly flow through the system is a concern, because we obviously want to maintain a concentration of herbicide for that lengthy 50 to 60 day time period. And so dilution or migration of product downstream certainly impacts our ability to do that. But the way that we've developed the program is that rather than doing a one-shot treatment where we apply the entire, concentration to the lake and hope for the best, we're going to do 3 to 4 lower dose applications so that we're constantly replenishing the herbicide and kind of boosting it back into that target zone. The other method that we'll use is there are pellet formulations of the herbicide that release the active ingredient slowly over time. So that helps guard against that dilution and migration downstream and losing all of the product and concentration in the lake as a result of a storm event or spring flows.
So you're going to maybe use granule as well?
Correct, yes.
So do fish or anything eat granule thinking it's fish food?
They do not.
They do not. You know that for a fact. Okay.
We certainly haven't had an issue with any fish mortality with sonar treatment.
Okay. But you have had fish mortality?
With contact herbicides, yes.
Okay. Because I know that you're going to report fish mortality, but then it's a little late for my cup of tea. That means you already killed them. I'm not a big herbicide person. We stopped cranberry growing in this town and went totally organic because we wouldn't allow the cranberry grower to use any chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides on our cranberries, the town-owned bogs. And here we are, literally, I feel like I have the alphabet soup of chemicals that we're putting in this pond as an experiment. I'm glad we're only doing half of the pond. When you said that the Floridone was to be used throughout the lake the first year, now I'm clear that you're only doing it only half of the lake, am I correct? Because in your narrative it says the whole lake.
Right, but as a condition.
Jen clarified that we're only doing half. How do you protect the native plants from your killing zones?
So certainly by limiting the treatment areas, but really it is the dosing of the product and certainly the susceptibility of the different species of plants to the herbicide is really where the selectivity comes in. So for fanwort, fortunately it is, and most of the invasive species, because these products were manufactured to control invasive species, and so they're more susceptible to this product than the native species. And so we're targeting an inlay concentration of 5 to 10 parts per billion. And I would say in my experience to control native species, potamogetans and others, water lilies, we're probably talking 3 to 5 times that concentration in order to get kind of a lethal impact.
Why didn't you attempt to try any mechanical first to reduce the amount of mass there of plant material, and then as it comes back, treat it when it's not so much?
I think the difficulty is that these invasive species, they actually reproduce through fragmentation. So any broken parts of the plant can actually sprout adventitious roots and settle to the bottom and create new plants. So although the current infestation is pretty widespread, there still is a potential to kind of exacerbate that problem and certainly have limited kind of long-term reduction of the plants using any sort of mechanical means. Although we're certainly headed to salt water, right after this pond, but there is potential to spread the infestation to other water bodies through kind of the promotion of fragmenting the plant.
Have you done many ponds and lakes that have an active herring run in them?
Yes. So we provided the commission with some examples of projects that we've done in the last few years. Sebacia Lake in Taunton is one of them. We have done work at Agawam Mill Pond in Wareham. And this past year, we conducted a similar sonar treatment program in the Lakes District of the Charles River, which also supports diagonous fish spawning.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have for right now. But I really think that one point I'd like to make is when you were talking about when it was stated that down the road, there's a lot of other issues, you know, fertilizer and all that sort of thing, that are impacting this pond as well, and this lake. I think maybe the people that are being proactive to try and clean up this lake should clean up their backyards as well by stopping fertilizing, maybe getting their runoff from their driveways and that sort of thing. Every little bit helps. And this is just, I'm just very concerned that we are attacking this with, like I say, the alphabet soup of chemicals. And the UK has they've banned a lot of these in their country because they're so bad. And they know the long-term effect. And when you say, you know, low toxicity, toxicity is toxicity. It's cumulative. And now you're saying you're going to go in there over and over and over and over with your low doses. So it's just like a slow death or disturbance to the whole ecosystem there. And I commend the people for wanting to do it, but I'm going to vote against this because I just feel that we fought so hard to clean up our waterways, and here we are throwing chemicals into this pond and this lake. Thank you.
More, you good?
I'm not good. This project really bothers me. Thank you. And when I saw how many people were sponsored for all the chemical companies for this, it really bothered me. I feel like this is Monsanto on crack. Now I'm done. I vented. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Doesn't appear to be anything in the public chat. If anybody would like to address the board, could you please raise your hands? I guess nobody would like to address the board. Okay.
Then
Nothing
I'm
in the
going to
public chat, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under.
Sorry, Betsy. Somebody on an iPhone, Jamie, so they're not going to have a camera, has raised their hand. So I'm going to promote that person up as a panelist. I know there's a lot of neighbors and I think a member of the Freshwater Pond Committee as well. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure who you are. All I can see on my end is iPhone. So I've promoted iPhone up as a panelist, and you may address.
Please identify yourself.
Hi, can you hear me? This is
Yes, we
Adrienne
can.
Stewart.
We can
You
hear
can?
you.
Okay, thank you. I did want to address the board, specifically the last.
Please identify yourself.
Adrienne Stewart. It is my understanding from being in a butter of the lake that this fan wart I have seen, as I have lived on the lake now for 10 years, make a dramatic invasion into our lake. And the expert who came to talk to us about this fan wart told us that there will be no lake if we don't do something about it. And her words were, it will become a meadow because of this invasive species. So we have to do something, or there will be no ecosystem there. There will be no fish. There will be no native plants. There will be nothing. It will be a broken ecosystem. So I understand there is a fear of the herbicide, but if we don't use some of the science connected with it, there is no other option available other than destroying the lake. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Doesn't look at Mr. Chairman.
Then I'm going to make a motion to close.
Hold on. Is there anything else from Stephen, Keith, or Mark?
No. No, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Anything from staff? All
No,
right.
Mr. Chairman, we're just, we just want to make sure the monitoring is correct. Again, this is something new in Falmouth. So we're a little apprehensive, but at the same time, if this is a success, which we want it to be, we want to have the monitoring show it's a success. So that's why we're really hammering in on that monitoring. We like our data. And we
Oh,
want
yeah.
to see it. So
No, I agree. All right. Any other commissioner comments? All right. Betsy, it's all on you.
I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and multiple seconds to close the hearing. If there's nothing further, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve. Oh. All right. It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Night.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it's going to take me a second to make sure I clear everybody out of here. So,
Take your time. We have all night.
oh, I'm working on it, Jamie. Okay, I only have Miss Box. Change role to attendee. Okay.
All right, next up, RT Bowman Builders, 121 Little Neck Bars Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For after-the-fact permission to install a patio and for permission to install an outdoor shower enclosure, conduct minor property improvements and install mitigation plantings. And for the record, the quorum excludes Kevin. Kevin, you get a coffee break.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up to present his project.
Excellent. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
This is a continued hearing. There was an initial review by your staff, and there were some comments raised that warranted a site visit to walk through this staff comments. I met with Alyssa and Fallon on site a little bit over a week ago, and we, I believe, resolved the outstanding issues, and we made revisions to the plan that I'm sharing with you. If you recall, this project was originally proposing to do some property improvements, including installation of a rinse station, a minor expansion of a patio, and the installation of a trash receptacle and some landscape screening with cedar trees. And also because of unpermitted patio construction and the installation of the new rinse station, we had to mitigate, and we proposed 1,000 square feet of mitigation planting, which is shown here in green. Subsequent to the site meeting with Alyssa and Fallon, we made a few minor edits, and I'm going to just walk you through those very briefly. First of all, our initial plan had too many cedar trees, which is not very common to say, but too many cedar trees proposed to act as a screen here. So because there's already a grove of cedar trees, and the number that we had proposed just was going to be too crowded. So we thinned out what was proposed, and we're showing 4 that would be staggered and planted in between the existing ones in the road to sort of screen out the property from Little Neck Bars Road. So that change was made. We made a note added a note to remove some debris. There's some like firewood and some brush that's stacked here, that debris should be removed. There was an older permit that required an area over here to be planted because of when the shed was originally proposed, and it doesn't appear that the planting occurred, so we've shaded this area green, and we're proposing an additional 300 square feet of mitigation to plant into this area. I think the original amount was 80 square feet, but there's an open area in here that we agreed it made sense to plant to enhance the buffer to the salt marsh. We modified the planting notes for this larger area because of its proximity to the salt marsh. Your staff recommended that we be specific about some plants that would be closest to the salt marsh, and we added notes about using Baccharis because that's a predominant species here. And so we touched up the notes on the plan. And we also added a note that the planting would be coordinated with staff prior to installation. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
No, I think Mike addressed all of the staff's concerns. And yes, Mike, there is a thing that sometimes there are too many trees. It's a rare thing, but sometimes it's a thing.
All right.
We want them to grow. We want them to be happy and grow and not just be all shoved together.
Understood.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you working with Alyssa and Fallon.
All right. Alyssa?
No other questions. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Steve?
No, thank you for responding to the staff's request. I have no further questions.
All right. Betsy?
Nor do I.
Courtney?
Me neither.
Wow. Maury?
And I really don't have anything, but it's not in the DCPC,
Just outside.
just outside.
Mm-hmm.
Ron?
No, I have no questions or comments. I'm happy with it.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Then I'm gonna make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Arlo Hawks eye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Philip Chase, 9 Compass Circle, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing dock, and install a concrete block retaining wall. And this has not been, it's been continued but not open, so the quorum is all of us. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Borselli has remained with us to present his project at 9 Compass Circle.
Welcome back, Mr. Borselli. You're up, sir.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, I represent the applicant. And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
This property, as you stated, this application was not opened. It was continued prior to opening and making a presentation because there was some suggested revisions to the plan, either by staff or individual commissioners that made sense And it made further sense not to actually present the plan until we made the plan revisions. And I will go through those things with you. But first off, the property's located on Compass Circle, which is at the end of a cul-de-sac. It has water frontage on Jenkins Pond. So wetland resources include land under the water body. The shoreline is considered an inland bank at the water line. We have shown a 100-foot no disturbance zone A from the inland bank because this property also happens to be within a zone 2 of a municipal well. So your typical no disturbance zone A increases to 100 feet. So it basically places the whole property within the buffer of an inland bank. The property is typical of the neighborhood. It is a single family dwelling. It has a shed, some lawn areas, landscaping. And there's an old dilapidated dock that is in the water, not actually usable. And that's one of the reasons we're here. We're here hopefully to seek permission to remove the old unpermitted dilapidated dock and propose a new dock and get permission to install that dock, and also to get a Chapter 91 license for that dock if you vote to approve this dock. The other major element or activity is the installation of a concrete block wall at the sloping bank, which is not actually a coastal bank because we're not on the coast, and but it's in the buffer of the pond in the inland bank. If you've been to the site, you would have seen that there's a significant eroded escarpment right at the toe of this slope. 2 trees have been completely undermined and are soon to topple into the pond. We're hoping to remove those trees and install a block wall, retaining wall to mitigate against further erosion of that slope. That detail is shown in a cross section on sheet 2 of the plan set. It's the concrete blocks. They're like giant Lego blocks that stack together, and they are designed to be so you can regrade to the top and plant at the top of the block. There'll be crushed stone behind it, and they're basically stacked up. And in this case, there's an existing chain link fence in the yard that would be, and I'll show you that. It's right along the edge here. We would take that down, build the wall, regrade behind the wall, and then put the fence back up. The reason the hearing was continued mainly was to give us an opportunity to take a recommendation where we could reduce the amount of fill that would be proposed behind the wall. Originally, this wall was 1 additional block high. So we looked at that with Jen at the office, and it was suggested that that would be a good compromise, and it would reduce the amount of fill behind the wall significantly, but it would still serve the purpose of stabilizing that slope. So we took that recommendation, and it reduced the volume of fill from 60 cubic yards to basically 30 cubic yards. So it's a relatively small amount of fill. It'll allow the only yard area for the family to be a little bit more level, so they have an outside recreation area between the house and the pond. And make for a good place to propose the dock. Here's a cross section of what is proposed for the dock. It's basically 1 8-foot elevated section of timber that would accept a ramp, and then there'd be 1 8 by 12.5 foot long float, which is 100 square feet, which is the maximum that you allow. That is shown in plan view on, oops, I apologize, wrong project. That is shown in plan view here. There's a small elevated portion, then there's the ramp, and then there's the 8 by 12.5 foot float that would be sited in this position. There's surprisingly a lot of water depth here. It's over 4 feet at the landward end, and it's 7.5 feet at the seaward end. During the review, we were informed, we were unaware that there had been an original order of conditions for some previous work that had been performed back in the 80s, I think, or late 80s, early 90s, that had a condition that there be a buffer strip of native planting. And the original plans we had proposed did not show that. That planting is not in place today. And your staff on a site visit, not only did they find the old documentation, they observed that there's no native plantings, there's no 10-foot wide native planting strip. My client wasn't even aware of that condition. It was a previous owner. My client purchased the property in the near recent past, I don't know exactly when. And I informed him of this, and he's accepting of that. And so part of our application includes planting that buffer to the pond. And I think that sums up my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alyssa?
My only comment is, Mike, at your convenience, if you can get us a copy of that stamped plan with the buffer strip on it. I think we just are missing a hard copy.
Oh,
Unless
hard
it was,
copy.
yeah.
Yes, I emailed it to you. I may not have delivered a hard copy.
Okay.
Happy
Thank
to.
you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy?
I like this version better. Thanks, Mike.
That reveals the commissioner who had comments.
Aha,
Right from the site. I called up Jen.
we're surprised.
Jen wouldn't give you up, but I had my suspicions.
Well, yeah, I could see a couple of other people it could have been too. But this came up and I'm like, what was it? What was it that I had a problem with this? And then I realized.
Oh, boy. Courtney?
That's all I have.
I have
Thanks,
no
Jamie.
questions.
That's plenty. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Maury?
No questions. Thank you, Mike, for the upgrade.
Ron?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thank you, Betsy, for setting them straight. No comments or questions.
I know you or Maury or maybe Courtney even would have questioned that amount of fill.
Yeah, I should have.
Thank you for including me.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
Then let's have I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Aye, that and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, next up, Rami and Rania Assad, 50 Landfall, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a one-car garage and install mitigation plantings. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm just getting over to promote Tom Bunker up. Tom is coming.
I'm sorry, before we go anywhere, the quorum excludes Courtney, Ron, and Steve.
Oh dear.
Excellent. Sorry about that.
Tom am I promoting your client as well or no?
I don't know. I don't, if he can raise his hand if he wants to be, but I don't know if he
Mr.
wants to be.
Assad, if you'd want to be promoted to a panelist, just raise your hand and I will promote you. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening. It's been a long time waiting for all these other projects to get by. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this plan for Rami Assad. When we were here last, the hearing was continued mainly because you wouldn't close the hearing without hearing from the association and whether they would accept the how it's been drawn and also the mitigation planting, the responsibility of having mitigation planting on their property. So now you've received a letter. I hope that's satisfactory. And of course, part of that letter says that they still have to go through their review process of the vote of the association to make sure that it's properly permitted through them, but they acknowledge the need for the mitigation and the responsibility. I think they're going to have an easement given to the Assads, so make sure that it's their responsibility to maintain it. Anyway, I will put my screen up. So there were some changes that the association wanted, so the plan has changed. So put that up here. So there's the overall plan, the building over here and the proposed garage in this area here. I don't think I have to go through all the setbacks again, but there is coastal bank coming quite a ways up the slope. Here, the association wanted the garage to be detached for various reasons. One, they're concerned with the process of attaching to or cutting into the foundation of the house and being a condominium. They just didn't want that possibly to run into any problems. So they wanted the garage to be detached from the structure. And so what we have done is pulled it away from the building and made it narrower. It was 14 3/4 feet, so it's 1.25 foot narrower than it was. And there's a 3-foot space between the building and the garage here. There's still enough room within the area of the existing paving to put in a 9 by 18 parking space in this location. The existing wall runs up a little more of an angle, so that'll be the walls to be moved, built back at an angle or parallel with the pavement. So it's a rectangular 9 by 18 parking space. shrub perennial landscape bed here. And of course, the driveway has moved 3 feet, 3 feet down along with the garage moving. So there's still a stone step, and then the association suggested that there be a person door, so-called person door on the side of the garage. And so we added a bituminous concrete walk over this length here. Several years ago, there was a drainage project around the whole area, and there is a PVC drain pipe running right through here that will be rerouted to go between the 2 buildings. Once the foundation is in, there'll be a slight or a short retaining wall, 3-foot long retaining wall to go here, so there's not a slope that might cause runoff down the hill. And actually it will, from this retaining wall, it can slope back slightly, but the toward the roadway, or can infiltrate. 4 downspouts will be connected into this rerouted drain pipe, and a second leaching pit put in this location for the added roof area. The mitigation requirements or the calculations come out to needing 657 square feet of native planting. And so we have, at one time there was a full circle around it, but going back and forth, the calculations showed slightly less mitigation. So we have 2 areas, 237 square feet of mitigation here. These are some existing viburnum shrubs that were planted, and so this is native shrubs to go around them but not interfere with what's already there. And then this area has 420 square feet only here, maintaining a 4-foot wide walkway going through here. The ivy, I think it was done already, but the note for that was changed, so that it could only be mechanical removal of the ivy out here, but hand removal of the ivy in this location, and within proximity of the beech tree, and of course removing all the ivy vines from up the beech tree by hand. So those are the changes we made, and I will take any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom, although the letter from the tree, I don't have any concerns or comments with the redesigned mitigation. With the comment letter, although it says the treetop board approves these mitigation provisions, your client still has to enter into an easement agreement with the board. We'll condition the project that until we receive a copy of that easement and approval agreement, we will not sign off on the building permit.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Fine.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
And no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Kevin?
And no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury?
No questions. Thank you, Tom.
Betsy? Betsy?
I'm coming. I had to turn my voice back on. No questions, Tom.
All
Have you
right.
turned it back on for that?
I did. Well, I could have gone.
2 thumbs up. All right. Jen, is there anything? It's been a long night. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman.
I try to put mute on because there's certain chairs who like you to be muted if it isn't your turn to talk.
You make that sound bad. All
I'm
right,
gonna
it's your
make
turn.
I'm going to make a motion, right? I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelder, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawks Eye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave and go get some tea, and I'll be thinking of you.
Good night, Tom.
Yeah.
Good night,
Good night.
Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Don't think of us, Tom.
Okay, I
Good
won't.
night.
I really wouldn't have. Good night.
You're welcome, Mr. Assad. He said thank you.
Excellent. Next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions. Neil and Betty Watanabe, 8 Bridge Street Holdings, LLC, 8 Bridge Street, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4359 to install a landscape wall, conduct minor grading, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, Angela Tanner, Crawford Land Management are here to present their amended project.
All right. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, represent the applicant along with Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management. I'm going to be very brief, and then I'm going to turn it over to Angela. And with your permission, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, but is she going to be brief? I'm kidding.
I think she.
I'm kidding. Move on.
This is an amendment to a project that you previously approved for a raise and reconstruct of a house. It's actively under construction if you've been to the site. As part of that original approval process through your work within a buffer zone redevelopment regs, there was a significant amount of mitigation planting proposed. That's shown in the green area. And there was regrading that now that everything's under construction, there would be a benefit to a very low profile landscape edge wall having a height of 18 inches or less. That was suggested during the project site design and grading. So Angela met with Jen and Alyssa to talk about this, and I think they can support the construction of this very low profile landscape wall. And then we've shown on our plan, that's in more detail on Angela's plan, some supplemental mitigation to offset the area of the wall that's within a resource area buffer. And with that, I'll turn it over to Angela.
That really
Hello.
was brief.
For the record, this is Angela Tanner from Genic Studio, Crawford Land Management. And if I could have your permission to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is just a little bit more detail on the planting piece of this project, since all of this mitigation was previously designed by Blue Flax Design. We took, for the most part, the same species that they are using in their plan, so that we're just expanding on that, just pushing the edge of it out. And there's this tiny little strip on right in here that's not in red, and this little corner down here that's also not in red. Those are areas that cannot count as mitigation because they're within 10 feet of the house. I had suggested to the homeowners that we just square those off and make them part of the mitigation area, so to speak, just adding some wildflowers and just neatening up that edge. So that's why those are shown there, and they're not in red because they don't count towards the square footage of mitigation. We've added a cedar tree and a number of shrubs. So I don't know if Mike mentioned this, there's a couple of steps right where the path and the wall intersect. And that's all I have. I can turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Angela. All right, Jen.
I have no comments or questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Alyssa.
No questions, thank you.
All right, commissioner comments or questions? Courtney.
No comments.
All right, Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Maury.
No comments.
Ron.
No comments. Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you. Another beautiful project.
Betsy.
No comments. Thanks.
Wow.
And excellent presentations by both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
You scare me when you say that for this project. That tells me there's like 100 for the next one. All right. Any
I'm
other
going to
questions
make a
or
motion.
comments?
What?
Please.
I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. There's nothing further. We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you all and have a nice evening.
All right. Next up, under a request to amend, Andrew and Joanne Whitus, 39 Juniper Point Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4890 to enlarge the previously approved deck and to install screening and additional mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Doug Schneider up from Cape and Islands Engineering to present his project. Doug has been very patient this evening, waiting for his turn. Evening, Doug.
Good evening, everyone. If you want me to get right into it, I will make it quick and
You're up,
sweet.
We're tired.
If I can share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All righty, this is 39 Juniper. Can everybody see the screen all right?
Yes.
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 Okay. The property is down in Woods Hole. We were in front of the commission back in October for some work on the property. That was granted an order of conditions that was issued back in January. And of course, right after the order of conditions was issued, the homeowners and architect came up with a couple of minor changes. This is the plan that was approved, which involved reconstruction of the driveway and a couple of additions to the porch on the west side and south and north sides. Subsequent to that approval, they've come back where they would like to enlarge the approved deck on the south side. I've got a markup of the original approved plan, so just to quickly highlight the areas that are changing. In red, you can see that we're pushing the deck out an extra, it's about 9 feet or so into a landscaped area, all still within the zone B, increasing the mitigation area up the necessary amount for the work for the additional impervious area in B. The spa deck area also getting changed just a small smidgen amount. We're adding some screening plantings on the northerly side adjacent to the abutter, as well as further down closer to the water where it's open to the abutting property. They just want to give a little buffer between the two properties. And then all of that is shown on a revised plan that is submitted with a new deck area, new deck and steps, the spa, plantings, screening plantings, and then the increased area of the mitigation. All other aspects of the plans of the project stay the same. Just by way of full disclosure, when the architect sent the builders the plans for other work, the builder went ahead and got started on the deck a little too soon, then was stopped immediately as soon as they found out, or it was found out they had begun work on there before they were supposed to. This is the deck as it is, or as it was, and this is the deck area with it framed out to what is in front of you tonight. Again, we apologize for the builder jumping the gun a little bit. They did it without the architect's approval and go ahead, and like I said, stopped immediately as soon as they had found out it was ongoing. And with that, I'd like to stop sharing and turn it back over to you because it's late.
Thanks, Doug. Jen,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Alyssa.
No comments, thank you.
All right. Maury.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Ron?
Yeah, just one comment from the site. The protective barriers, they're exposed to such wind up there that they're actually, some of the sticks were broken in half and the plastic was just flapping in the breeze. I don't know what else we can do, hay bales or something stronger, but in that particular case, it really wasn't doing its job. That's
We'll
all.
make a note and reach out to the builder tomorrow, Ron. Thank you.
Right. Steve?
No questions. Fascinating properties back there, that's all. But thank you.
Right. Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Jamie.
Courtney?
No questions or comments.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Let's have a motion to close. I mean, let's close the hearing and take it under advisement. That's my motion.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks eye.
Ron?
Driscoll eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good night.
Good night.
Night, Doug.
All right, next up, boat orders of conditions. First up, Thomas Fanning, McGansett Yacht Club, 237 County Road and 0 Pine Bank Road off North Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum on this excludes Courtney, Ron, and Steve. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hold this. By the way, guys, we closed 9 tonight. That's a record.
Well, we made up because I think, 2 or 3 meetings ago, well, the last
We
three
didn't close
meetings, we haven't
anything.
closed anything, so.
Well,
Playing
that makes,
catch up.
that
Septic
means
upgrade.
next week is going to be fun for.
Just start
Yeah.
drafting these tomorrow. Septic upgrade, mounted system. I was not at the last hearing, so. What did
I
you
can-
guys talk about? Conditions or anything?
I can recap, Jen.
Thank you.
Yes, so we did get the revised plan and they addressed all of our comments. I believe the last thing we were going to have them do is just shift some of the proposed trees just so they're not right on top of the property line. But I think everything else was covered. That was the only note I had.
Shift trees. Got it. Okay, perfect.
All right. Anything anybody want in there? I think they addressed everything we.
Maybe one
raised.
thing we didn't see implemented was just the not planting the switchgrass. It was still in their rain garden mix. So just removing that.
Got it.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any more questions or comments? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks eye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Mark Romaine, 45 Toby Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum excludes Ron and Kevin.
This is the detached garage with the guest suite above, the plunge pool, mitigation plantings, restoration plantings, tree restoration. And I think the only thing, once we've flushed everything out with Angela, I think there's like a couple of, is it trees on the, it's not on the association area listed, it's on the other side?
No, on the association area, they're just being proposed a little too close to some of the existing trees and branches than we typically prefer to see.
But we're gonna take care of that in the field with Angela, correct? Yeah, so we're gonna do tree placement in the field with Angela, just to spread those trees out a little bit more. I fully expect you to see this under an amendment anyway. I don't believe the ZBA, according to the paper, approved this project. So they're gonna be coming back they're gonna be going back to the ZBA for a redesign, so you're most likely gonna be seeing this under an amendment.
We should make sure they were aware of that it would require an amendment on our part if they change it.
I can make that a special condition.
Seems obvious, but I'd
Yeah.
rather point it out, you know.
No, Mike and Angela both know, so, but I will actually reference it in the order.
Yeah, just so it's covered, you know.
Sure.
And they're doing a D-night system, that's nice.
Yeah.
And a note about the velocity zone, they're eating up 80 square feet, I think it was.
Okay, I'll make that a finding note on. And tree placement infield. Okay. Got it.
So
right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Fellow Hawks eye.
Steve?
And
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Last motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Fellow Hawks second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Fellow Hawks eye.
Driscoll, aye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good job, everybody.